Good morning. It's actually, this is another episode of The Whispering Sword, the sword that comes to set you free and to empower you. And I trust that's what God will do for you today as He speaks. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. You could say I'm still suffering jet lag from the trip that Ruth and I just returned from Israel. Or you could say I awoke in honor of my Messianic Christian friends in Israel who have just finished their first night of the Feast of Tabernacles. And they spent their night in a sukkah, in a temporary dwelling, to remember what God had done as they were traveling through the wilderness and how He came and dwelt among them in their temporary shelters. We had a great trip. It was a great trip. And as I returned, people say, what was the high point? There was one memory that kept coming back to me, and it was about a nondescript house at the edge of the desert in Arad. It's a newly formed town at the edge of the desert of the Negev, and there at the edge of that town, in this nondescript building, my mind keeps going back to that. I'd learned we were to go to there was an artist depiction, and from the description, it was called the Fountain of Tears, based on Jeremiah 19 verse 1. Oh, that my head were waters and my eyes a fountain of tears, that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people. Now, I love art, but I wasn't particularly thinking that's what I would be the high point of my trip. But it was on the schedule, so we went. And what I saw was the artist Rick Weinecke, a Canadian artist, created a 60-foot-long display, and on the wall is a depiction of Christ. Each panel is different, and it's a panel of the depiction of one of the last sayings of Christ. So the first one is of Christ, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And in front of that, observing this panel, is a Jewish Holocaust survivor, a bronze full-life statue, Holocaust survivor. Each one has his head shaved and is in striped prison guards. And they're observing this panel. And each panel is separated by a pillar of stones. And at the top of the stones is a trickle of water is flowing from the top down over the pillar, and it actually ends up watering some olive plants. There are 7 of these panels and 7 figures, each responding in a different way to what they're seeing of the last saying. The first one, for example, "Father, forgive them." The Holocaust survivor is turning away, clutching his chest, and is like, I can't forgive. I can't forgive, because to do that would be to forget, that no one would hold on to the memory of what has been done to us. However, there's no words written, there's no words inscribed, no words spoken. It's all in the artistic experience. This artist brought together 2 of the most painful things in Jewish history: the crucifixion. For us, it's a wonderful thing as Christians, but for the Jews, it's like, well, that's where people start to say, "You're the Christ killers," and they killed Jews in the name of Christ. So terrible things happen. So he brought together the crucifixion and the Holocaust. And you say, how could you do that? But he felt God wanted him to do it. He tried to resist doing it, but God kept speaking, and so he did it. But he did it unto the Lord. He said, I wanted it to be a private thing. I didn't want the world to see it. I just wanted to do it unto the Lord. I didn't do it for approval and for likes. And in fact, it's kind of hidden. He said, I do no advertising. And you have to want to go there, and you have to make an appointment to go there. You can't just waltz in and say, oh, I want to see this. And yet thousands of people from all over the world, tens of thousands, have seen and been impacted by this experience. Many times Jewish people are very angry. How could you do this? And yet as they observe it and live through it, they say, wow, it's almost like Christ is one of us. And people come to new faith as a result of this experience. But the whisper of the sword is, He did it unto the Lord. He ministered unto the Lord. And the Lord took care of the multiplication. So when God speaks to you, do what he asks you to do and trust that whatever was hidden, whatever was in secret, you don't have to make it known. God will make it known, because nothing that's hidden, nothing he's planted in your heart is going to remain hidden. It's going to become manifest. So do it unto the Lord and trust him for the increase. The second point is Rick Warnicki was not Jewish. He was a drug addict in Canada. His life was all messed up. And at some point, he read the book, The Exodus, which is a fictional account of the foundation of Israel. And he was so moved by that. He had no Jewish relatives. He had no Jewish connections, barely knew who the Jewish people were. But there was something about this people that drew him in, and eventually he ended up coming to Israel. He has this vision. He's to do this artistic depiction. And he's saying, God, who am I? I have no memories of it. What right have I to do this? So he argued with God. And God said, well, you're not doing it from your memory. You're doing it from my memory. It's my memory. It's my grace. And so he did it as unto the Lord. But the Lord gave him the authority to do it, not his experience, not his expertise, not his education or knowledge. It was the Lord who gave him the authority. I was sharing this with a friend, David Condoli. He's a dear friend, a very gifted man of God. And he has gifts that I don't have. He has gifts that I admire. See, I need that gift. And he said, as we were discussing this, he said, this is what happened to the Apostle Paul. He didn't have the experience of the resurrection. He didn't have the experience of being at the crucifixion and at the resurrection and seeing Christ move among people. He didn't have that experience. And he even says, last of all, he was seen by me also, as one born out of due time. But by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace toward me was not in vain. So even as the artist says, I have no right to do this, God's grace gave him the right. Paul says, who am I to speak? I used to persecute Christians. I'm the least of the apostles. And yet it's God's grace that gave him the authority to speak. I said, thank you, David. That's a good point. It makes my point. It's God's grace. And that leads me to the third point, which is that as we honor the gifts of others, as I honor the artist's gift, I receive my gift. As I honor the gift in my brother David, his insight, I received greater gifts myself. As you honor your brother, you put yourself in the position to receive God's grace. Oftentimes we see a gift of a brother and we say, wow, and we feel the need to minimize his gift. It's not so important. Or to compete with it. Rather than say, God, thank you for my brother. Thank you for the gift you gave. Thank you for the gift you gave to Rick Warnicki. Thank you for the gift you gave to David Condoli of spiritual insight. And as I honor that, it's kind of like Elisha. As he honored Elijah, he received the double portion. He received his portion. So the three things I wanted to say to you today that I hope the Spirit whispers to your spirit. First of all, do whatever he says to do, but do it unto him. Don't do it to the crowds and for their applause and their approval. Do it for him. Jesus, I'm doing this for you and only for you. And he says, I'll receive it and I'll take care of multiplying the impact. And secondly, my grace gives you the authority. My grace gives you the authority. Not your experience. Oh, you were a Holocaust survivor. You have the right to speak. No, you have the right to speak because I've spoken to you. You have the right to speak because it's my memory that I'm sharing with you. It's my heart that I'm sharing with you. And thirdly, when you honor your brother's gift, and you say, well, praise God for Rick Warnicki. Praise God for David Condoli. Praise God for the gifts of my brothers and sisters around me. He releases gifts to you because he's the giver of every good and perfect gift. And so his grace brings light in the darkness, brings light in the darkness. And so for the darkness, for many people wondering what in the world, how do I make sense of the crucifixion and the Holocaust? God gave a word to Rick Warnicki, the artist of all people, and that word is bringing light. And as you respond to what God puts in your heart, it's going to bring light to you and to the people. But stay in a place of humility where you receive the grace and you say, as Paul did, I didn't receive it in vain, but I labored more abundantly, and his grace was manifested to the world through me. The final point I wanted to make is that it's kind of like a double-edged sword. I share to you that I've been to Israel, and you say, well, that's amazing. If only I could go. It's costly. I don't know. I had to save some money to go because it is costly. And I don't know if you should go or not. And I don't want to give you the impression, well, I have a spiritual edge because I was in Israel. No. The whole point here is when God speaks to you, you don't ever have to go to Israel. But just like Paul, he had a powerful word, even though he had not been there when the crucifixion occurred and the resurrection happened. He was not there. And so you're not one bit less than anyone else just because you've not been to Israel. God may want you to go, or he may not. But it's not about that. It's about receiving his grace. And when you receive it, you embrace it and you minister unto him. And he will give you the grace to do what he's called you to do. And with confidence and authority, you can move and you can speak. I've heard his voice. And you create this thing that's faithful to what he gave you at the edge of the desert, and it impacts the thousands. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you.